Hello there and welcome back. This is Fall Asleep to Astronomy. Tonight we drift toward a mystery not of brightness, but of absence. A place so vast, so quiet, so nearly empty that it challenges what it means for something to exist at all. It is called the Boots Void. In the early 1980s, as astronomers mapped the sky, they found it a hollow between clusters of galaxies, a region where light itself seemed to thin and fade. Behind the constellation, Boots beyond its gentle spring stars, lies an enormous sphere of almost perfect darkness. They called it the Boots Void, 250 million light-years wide and nearly empty. Inside, just a handful of faint galaxies drift like lanterns on a black ocean. If our Milky Way were placed within it, we would float alone, surrounded by silence. When Robert Kirshner and his team discovered this in 1981, it wasn't a mistake. It was a structure made not of matter, but of less. A cosmic hollow, one of the largest known in existence. And so began a deeper wondering. What could create such an enormous emptiness? What does it mean for the universe to hold a space so vast, so silent, and so nearly void? Wherever you are tonight, maybe in bed, beneath dim light, maybe watching from somewhere far away, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from right now? If you enjoy these calm explorations, a gentle like or a quiet subscribe helps this little corner of the cosmos reach others who might need a moment of stillness before sleep. Now take a breath. Imagine floating at the edge of that darkness, your thoughts quiet, your body weightless, the universe around you dissolving into stillness. You don't have to move. You don't even have to stay awake. Just listen and drift. The universe will wait. The void waits for us still silent and deep. From its shadowed edge we look outward again, not to flee from the emptiness, but to understand that it is not rare. It is the rule. What we see when we gaze at the night sky, the stars, the dust, the soft milky haze, is only the decoration upon something far larger and far quieter. The universe, for all its brilliance, is mostly space, mostly dark, mostly empty. That emptiness isn't a flaw or a gap. It is the structure upon which everything else rests. Galaxies gather like thin threads upon the boundaries of this stillness, like dew collecting along the edges of invisible glass. Between those threads stretch immense regions with almost nothing at all, what astronomers call cosmic voids. The Boots Void is only one of them. It is the grandest we've seen, but not the only. Everywhere we look on the largest scales, the universe forms a pattern that is strangely familiar, a web of filaments and hollows like a sponge or a network of rivers frozen in space. Galaxies form along the filaments. Clusters rise where filaments meet, and between them lie the empty basins, quiet, rarefied, thin. If you could float beyond the Milky Way and then beyond the local group of galaxies, and look back from a vantage high above all structure, you'd see this pattern unfold, bright strings of light wound around black caverns of nothingness. Each glowing thread stretches for hundreds of millions of light years, and every dark cell between them is a void, a silent chamber in the universe's cathedral. The Boots Void. In this vast arrangement is one of the grandest chambers. Its walls are galaxies. Its floor is silence. Its air, if one could call it that, is thinner than any vacuum our instruments can make. If our entire Milky Way floated within, it would be like a single grain of dust suspended in a desert sky. It is strange to think that emptiness can have a texture, but cosmic emptiness does. The void is not nothing. It is less than something, a place where matter exists only as faint whispers, lonely galaxies drifting apart, thin halos of gas, the faint hum of radiation left from the Big Bang. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine drifting there deep inside the boot's void. No stars nearby, no suns to warm you, only a faint light from distant edges so far away that it seems almost motionless. Even the concept of direction begins to fade because there is nothing close enough to define one. It is not black the way we think of darkness on Earth. It is deeper, more absolute a blackness not of shadow, but of distance. In such silence, even thought feels like motion. The void becomes less a place and more a state. The awareness of what happens when all else is gone. And yet, this is not loneliness. It is balance. The universe needs its emptiness. Without it, light would have no contrast. Galaxies would have nowhere to form. Space would not breathe. Just as a melody requires pauses between notes, the universe requires stillness between its structures. Without the rest, the rhythm would collapse into noise. We often picture the cosmos as crowded stars upon stars, galaxies upon galaxies, all pressing together in a glittering ocean. But that is illusion, a trick of scale. The truth is that even the densest clusters are separated by vast gulfs of space. The nearest star to the Sun, Proxima Centauri, is more than 4 light-years away, 40 trillion kilometers of nothing between. Even within galaxies, the spaces between stars are mostly vacuum-dotted only by clouds of gas, so diffuse they are almost not there. Zoom outward again, and those gaps expand. Clusters are divided by tens of millions of light-years, superclusters by hundreds. And beyond them, the voids where there may be just a handful of dim galaxies across distances so vast that light itself takes geological epochs to travel. So when we look at the boot's void, we are not looking at a strange anomaly. We are seeing the universe as it mostly is. Stillness, not motion. Emptiness, not fullness. Space, not stars. This realization reshapes the way we think about existence. We are beings of matter, living in a cosmos that is mostly not matter. We live within a bright oasis, surrounded by endless desert. And that desert is not barren, it is the quiet background that allows our small island of light to be visible at all. Astronomers describe the universe as having a large-scale structure, but that phrase only hints at what it really is, a vast interwoven lattice of something and nothing, a pattern shaped by gravity and time. Imagine pouring a drop of ink into a bowl of water and watching it swirl into spirals. Now imagine that pattern frozen across billions of light years. The filaments of galaxies are the ink. The voids are the clear spaces between. If you could trace the edge of the boot's void with your mind, you would see it bordered by the bright clusters of the Hercules and Corona Borealis superclusters, 2 massive walls of galaxies enclosing a hollow center. From a distance, the void would resemble a bubble in a cosmic foam, one of many touching and merging, forming the great sponge of the universe. Even within that emptiness, faint light remains. A few lonely galaxies drift there, each isolated by tens of millions of light years. Some are faint spirals, others irregular smudges, dim beacons of structure inside a realm that resists it. They are called void galaxies. Astronomers study them carefully. How did they form so far from the dense filaments where gravity weaves the usual patterns? Perhaps they are survivors, remnants left behind as surrounding matter was pulled away, galaxies adrift on the thinning tides of space. Perhaps they formed later in isolation, their stars slowly kindling from the sparse gas that remained. Whatever their story, they tell us that even in the deepest emptiness, creation finds a foothold. The void is not pure nothing. It hums with potential, with faint magnetic fields, with invisible dark matter that traces a hidden skeleton through all space. And the expansion of the universe keeps deepening those hollows, slowly stretching the fabric so that the bright threads grow thinner and the dark cells grow larger. Over cosmic time, emptiness expands, matter condenses, and the pattern continues. If you think of the boot's void as a hole, then it is a hole not torn into the universe but sculpted by it, a natural outcome of how space evolves. The universe did not begin with smoothness. It began with slight unevenness, tiny ripples in the density of the early cosmos, and those ripples determined where light and matter would gather and where they would thin. The boot's void is one of those thin places stretched and widened over billions of years by the quiet expansion of everything. The emptiness, then, is not absence, but memory. It remembers the uneven start of the cosmos. It remembers gravity's patient pull and the gentle outward push of expansion. It remembers what happens when creation balances against dispersal, when light is allowed room to breathe. Even the term void is misleading, because the space within it is still filled with the soft glow of the cosmic microwave background, the afterlight of the Big Bang. Every photon from that early time continues to move through these empty regions unhindered, unbent. Through the booty's void passes the oldest light we know, undisturbed, ancient, and smooth. That light is everywhere. Even here, reaching your eyes as faint warmth from the surrounding night. Every second, countless photons from the birth of the universe pass through you, through your walls, your air, your skin. The last whispers of the beginning flowing silently onward. They travel without resistance through the void because there is nothing to scatter them. The emptiness is pure pathway. It allows light to travel freely, endlessly, calmly. In this way, the void becomes not just an absence, but a medium, a channel through which the universe continues to communicate with itself. So the next time you look at a star, remember, for every bright point you see, there are billions of stretches where there is nothing to see at all. And yet, the darkness itself is not failure. It is form. It is the canvas upon which everything else is painted. The boot's void reminds us of scale of humility, of the quiet between the cosmic heartbeats. It invites us to listen not to noise, but to the pause. Because in that pause, the universe tells its oldest story, the story of how something became possible only after nothing had room to exist. In the great balance between matter and space, between light and dark, the void is the equal partner of creation. It gives galaxies the space to grow. It gives gravity room to sculpt. It gives us perhaps the silence we need to wonder at all. And as you imagine drifting through its center, weightless, endless, surrounded by black, know that this is not isolation. It is simply the natural breath of the cosmos, a vast inhalation before the next exhalation of stars. Even here in the quiet of your own night, you are part of that rhythm, breathing in emptiness, breathing out wonder. Your heartbeat echoes the distant pulse of galaxies forming on the edges of the void. Every exhale joins the soft expansion of space itself. And in this balance, you too are part of the structure. The Buddhi's void is not only a physical place, it is a reminder that even emptiness holds pattern, that even stillness can have shape. And through its vast darkness, the universe continues to grow. The emptiness we drifted through, that serene dark ocean of the Buddha's void, did not always exist. It was shaped patiently by the quiet forces that rule the universe, not by chaos, but by balance, not by explosion alone, but by the slow contest between gravity and expansion. Let your mind linger there on the edge of that vast hollow. Imagine it billions of years ago, when there was no void yet. Only a young universe, dense and glowing, filled with light so thick it could not yet travel freely. Everything, every atom, every flicker of matter crowded close, folded into a single luminous fog. No stars, no galaxies, just the early hum of creation. In that glowing infancy, the universe was not perfectly smooth. It carried tiny imperfections, ripples in the sea of energy, small differences in density, no greater than 1 part in 100,000. And those ripples were destiny. Gravity. The silent sculptor began to work. In slightly denser regions, matter tugged on itself, pulling inward, deepening the small dents in the cosmic fabric. While in the slightly emptier regions, the opposite happened. Matter drifted away, drawn toward the denser peaks nearby. The rich grew richer. The poor grew emptier. And the first seeds of cosmic structure began to unfold. From that gentle unevenness, from those primordial wrinkles, all later shapes were born: galaxies, clusters, filaments, and the vast silent voids between. Even the Buddha's void began as one of those faintly underdense patches in the newborn cosmos. Over time, it would widen and deepen, stretched by the expanding universe and starved of matter by its gravitational neighbors. You can think of gravity as a gathering force. It collects, it condenses it, pulls together what would otherwise drift apart. And you can think of cosmic expansion as the opposite, a gentle outward flow, the stretching of the very coordinates of space itself. Together they create rhythm. They give rise to the great pattern we call the cosmic web. Imagine for a moment a sheet of soft fabric, smooth but not flat. Where the fabric sags slightly, marbles roll inward and gather. Where it rises, the marbles drift away, leaving hollows behind. This is how gravity and expansion interact. They do not fight each other exactly. They choreograph. Each motion defines the other. As the universe aged, dense regions became galaxies and clusters. Their gravity drew in more gas, more dust, more dark matter. Meanwhile, the underdense regions, the voids, became lighter still. Their matter was pulled outward toward the filaments. Over billions of years, the dense got denser, the empty emptier. And the universe's architecture, that intricate sponge-like lattice, began to appear. By the time the first stars were born just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, the pattern was already faintly visible. A network of light surrounded by shadows, galaxies blooming where matter had gathered darkness, deepening in the spaces between. The Boots Void is one of those ancient shadows stretched to its enormous scale by the slow, unhurried expansion of space itself. Even now, that expansion continues. Every second, space grows. Not because galaxies move through it like ships on an ocean, but because the ocean itself widens. The very distances between points increase. This expansion is not a wave passing through the universe. It is the universe, the ongoing act of becoming larger. The voids are where that act is most visible. With little matter to resist, expansion dominates. Space there stretches freely unhindered by the weight of clustered galaxies. In a sense, the voids are the lungs of the cosmos, vast regions where the universe breathes outward. When we say the Boots Void is about 300 million light-years wide, we are describing a number that keeps changing. It grows quietly as the universe expands. The walls of galaxies that border it, the Hercules and Corona Borealis superclusters, drift farther apart. The hollowness deepens, but not because something consumes it, simply because space allows itself to widen. To understand this rhythm, imagine the universe as dough rising in a slow cosmic oven. Galaxies are like raisins in that dough. As the dough expands, the raisins move farther apart, not because they crawl outward, but because the dough itself stretches between them. Now imagine certain parts of the dough having fewer raisins to begin with. Those are the voids. As the dough rises, they expand even faster than the rest, becoming great hollow pockets in the loaf of the universe. The Boots Void is one of those pockets, an ancient cavity swollen by time and by the universe's own breathing. But there is more to the story. Because the universe doesn't just expand, it also carries invisible scaffolding, a hidden framework of dark matter. Dark matter has no color, no light, no shadow. We cannot see it yet. It outweighs all visible matter by more than 5-to-1. It is the gravitational backbone upon which galaxies form. In the early universe, dark matter gathered first. It began to clump in patterns dictated by those original ripples in density. Normal matter, hydrogen, helium, and the faint traces of heavier elements fell into the gravity wells that dark matter carved. Stars ignited where dark matter was strongest, and in the regions where it was weakest, like the early Boots Void, almost nothing formed. Those faint regions became cosmic hollows, not because something pushed galaxies away, but because there was never enough matter there to begin with. The Boots Void, then, is not a hole in the universe. It is a part of its natural shape, the negative space of creation. Even now, when we map dark matter through the bending of distant light, a technique called gravitational lensing, we can see that voids correspond to the faintest patches of this hidden mass. It's as if the universe were a painting not of color, but of weight, with bright strokes of gravity where matter gathers and soft washes of nothing where it does not. And while gravity sculpts the dense regions, another unseen force works alongside it, dark energy. If dark matter builds the scaffolding, dark energy pulls it apart. It is the quiet accelerant behind the universe's expansion, the subtle pressure that causes distant galaxies to recede ever faster. No one knows what it truly is. We only know that it acts everywhere equally, even in the emptiest reaches of space. Inside a void like Boots, where there is little gravity to resist dark energy's influence, is strongest. It stretches the fabric freely. It allows space to expand at its most natural pace, unopposed. And so the void grows gently inexorably. Gravity and dark energy, attraction and expansion together. They maintain the balance of cosmic motion. Too much gravity, and the universe would collapse. Too much expansion, and galaxies would never have formed. But here we are living in a narrow moment, where both coexist long enough for stars to shine, for atoms to assemble, for minds to wonder. The Boots void, in its silence, is proof of that balance. It shows what happens when one side wins, when gravity yields and expansion reigns. It is a window into what the distant future might hold when galaxies drift so far apart that the sky grows dark again. Astronomers often model this process through computer simulations. They start with simple ingredients: dark matter, gas, gravity, and time. From those, they let the universe evolve. At first, everything seems random. Small clumps here and there, faint densities, subtle differences. But then, slowly, order appears. Filaments stretch. Clusters form. Voids bloom between them like bubbles rising through deep water. If you watch those simulations unfold, you'll see that the voids are not static. They merge. They shift. Small hollows join into larger basins, just as raindrops combine into puddles. Over time, the cosmic web becomes more pronounced. Thin, bright threads surrounded by vast black cells. The Boots void is one such cell, the relic of many smaller voids that merged over cosmic history into one immense region of quiet. If you could stand on the edge of one of those simulations and look inward, you'd see that the void's center is not entirely empty. A few dark matter filaments thread through even there, faint and ghostly like cobwebs glinting in invisible light. Those filaments are enough to seed a few galaxies lonely and dim, but they never grow into the bustling clusters we see elsewhere. This interplay of gathering and stretching is the rhythm of everything. It is written in the structure of space, in the orbit of planets, in the expansion of thought. Even within you, the atoms of your body are mostly empty space nuclei, surrounded by vast orbits of nothing. You are, in a quiet sense, a small universe of voids and filaments yourself. The same pattern repeats at every scale: the gathering of density and the widening of emptiness. In clouds, in cells, in galaxies, nature builds not from solidness, but from contrast. The Boots void is simply the grandest expression of that rule. If we could listen to the universe, if we could translate gravity and expansion into sound, the voids would be the rests in its music, long deep silences between the chords of matter. And the Boots void would be one of its deepest pauses, a note held for hundreds of millions of years. Even now, as telescopes grow more powerful and maps more detailed, the void remains vast, persistent, unbroken. It is not a relic of the past, but a living part of the universe's structure. Space continues to stretch through it, and the galaxies at its edges continue to move apart. In another few billion years, it may be larger still, its boundaries thinner, its hollowness purer. Some astronomers suspect that as the universe expands faster and faster, voids will come to dominate the cosmos. Galaxies will become isolated, then invisible to one another. The night sky will fade until only local stars remain. And then perhaps the universe will resemble the Boots void everywhere, calm, dark, endlessly still. In that distant future, if there are minds to see, they will look out upon a sky without galaxies and wonder if they are alone. They will be living inside what the Boots void already is, the silence after the symphony. But for now, here we are still surrounded by light, still tracing the shapes of emptiness, still marveling at how the universe built such beauty from imbalance. Gravity gathers, expansion releases. Together they write the geometry of existence. And in the spaces between their strokes, the voids appear not as failures of creation, but as its most delicate design. The Boots void is one such design, an artifact of that eternal rhythm born from slight unevenness, grown by the patient dance of attraction and dispersal, shaped by time into a structure so vast it humbles thought itself. So as we drift away from its center carried by imagination or by the slow rotation of our planet through night, let that rhythm stay with you, the steady inhale of gravity, the soft exhale of expansion. The universe breathes, and the void is its pause. It reminds us that silence is not the absence of meaning, it is the presence of balance. The Booties void, vast and patient, waited in darkness for billions of years before a few human minds noticed its quiet absence. It did not announce itself with light. It was revealed through silence, through the missing points on a cosmic map. In the previous part, we drifted through its birth, how gravity and expansion sculpted the great hollows of the universe, how matter gathered elsewhere and left this space bare. Now we return to the observers, the dreamers on a small blue planet who looked up, measured carefully, and saw a pattern not of stars, but of nothing. It was the early 1980s. Humanity's telescopes were growing sharper, their mirrors larger, their gaze more ambitious. Astronomers had begun to look beyond individual galaxies, beyond clusters, into the true structure of the cosmos. They wanted to understand how the universe was arranged not as points of light on a flat sky, but as a vast three-dimensional landscape. Among them was Robert Kirshner, a soft-spoken astrophysicist with a fascination for cosmic structure. With him were three colleagues, August Oehmler, Paul Schechter, and Stephen Schechtman. Together they formed what would become known as the Seven Samurai Group, a poetic nickname that suited the way they cut through the unknown with precision and patience. Their tool was light itself. More precisely, the subtle stretching of light as galaxies moved away from us, a phenomenon called redshift. When an object in space travels away, the light it emits is stretched to longer, redder wavelengths, just as the sound of a train whistle deepens as it moves past. By measuring that redshift, astronomers can calculate distance. Each galaxy becomes not just a point of brightness, but a coordinate, a marker in the three-dimensional fabric of the universe. In those days, gathering such data was painstaking work. There were no automated surveys or digital sky maps, no computers to handle billions of data points. Astronomers had to record spectra by hand, one galaxy at a time, through long nights at observatories high above the desert air. They watched as the faint light from distant worlds fell onto photographic plates, recording its spectral lines, fingerprints of motion, whispers of distance. The team began their survey in the direction of Bootes, a constellation that rises high above the northern horizon in spring and early summer. Its brightest star, Arcturus, is a beacon of warm orange light, one of the nearest giant stars to Earth. But the astronomers were not looking at Arcturus. They were looking far beyond it, beyond the Milky Way, beyond the nearby clusters, into the distant depths where galaxies form filaments and walls. As they plotted their results, a pattern began to appear, a structure of connected galaxy clusters stretched into curved lines and sheets. But then, at the center of their map, something unexpected emerged, an enormous gap. A region almost empty of galaxies. A darkness not caused by dust or obstruction, but by the simple absence of light sources themselves. When they first saw it, they hesitated. It seemed too large to be real. Perhaps their survey had missed a patch, or perhaps there was an error in the measurements. But as more data came in, the void persisted. It was not a flaw. It was the universe itself revealing its negative space. That region, hundreds of millions of light years across, was unlike anything recorded before. It contained perhaps 60 faint galaxies in total where thousands should have been. Its diameter was nearly 1/3 of a billion light years, an expanse so vast that it dwarfed entire superclusters. The team realized they had found a cosmic cavern. When their findings were published in 1987, the Bootes void entered the scientific lexicon, though at first it was difficult for many to grasp. A void that large, an emptiness that immense. It defied earlier ideas about how matter should be distributed. Before that discovery, many scientists imagined the universe as roughly uniform galaxies scattered evenly across space with small irregularities. But the Bootes void shattered that illusion. It hinted that the cosmos was far more textured, far more sculpted than anyone had realized. And so, from a handful of spectral lines and a pattern of missing dots, the modern view of the universe began to change. The Bootes void became a turning point. It was evidence that the universe was not smooth and homogeneous, but woven into a cosmic web, a network of filaments, clusters, and voids. The structure was no longer random. It was pattern-shaped by gravity and time. In the years that followed, astronomers began to map the universe more thoroughly. With better instruments, wider surveys, and faster computers, the picture grew clearer. They found more voids, smaller than Bootes, but countless scattered between filaments like bubbles in rising dough. Each void told the same story. The universe was not full, but fragile, porous, balanced between being and nothingness. The Bootes void, however, remained exceptional, a supervoid, one of the largest coherent regions of emptiness known. Its discovery reshaped how astronomers described the cosmos. It wasn't a flat scattering of galaxies, but an intricate lattice. Not like sand spread on a floor, but like soap bubbles packed together, each hollow, enclosed by thin membranes of light. Robert Kirshner once said that discovering the void felt like finding the hole in the donut of the universe. A gentle metaphor fitting for something both simple and profound. For what they found was not a boundary, but the absence of one. In a way, it was a discovery of shape through absence. The galaxies defined where space was not empty, and the void defined the space between their gatherings. It was negative space, the kind an artist uses to reveal form, and just as an artist might step back to see the entire composition, astronomers, too, had to step back conceptually mathematically to see the universe's design emerge. The Booty's void was one of the first brushstrokes in that revelation. As the data deepened, the structure surrounding the void became clearer. To the west, the Hercules supercluster, a dense wall of galaxies. To the east, the Corona Borealis supercluster, another massive collection of light. Between them, the Boots void stretched like an ocean between coasts serene and immense. When scientists first modeled the space in 3 dimensions, they described it as roughly spherical. Though not perfectly so, its edges uneven, its center slightly lopsided, as though carved by the slow tides of cosmic expansion. Within its walls drifted a few faint galaxies, perhaps remnants of the filaments that once crossed it. These lonely systems move through the void like plankton in deep water, their starlight faint, their isolation immense. In time, redshift mapping evolved from a specialized effort into a grand collaboration. What began with a few astronomers in the early 1980s expanded into vast surveys, like the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, which would later map hundreds of thousands of galaxies. But even in those immense catalogs, the Booty's void remains visible, a hole so large that even the most detailed maps cannot ignore it. Its presence whispers something profound about the scale of the universe and our ability to perceive it. Because we do not see the Booty's void directly, we infer it as a sculptor infers the hollow between forms. It is a truth revealed by what is missing. There's a quiet poetry in that humanity, a species made of dense matter on a small, crowded planet, first understood the universe's vastest emptiness, not by seeing it, but by noticing where nothing appeared. And yet this discovery is not only scientific, it carries a deeper reflection about perception and patience. It shows how understanding the universe often means listening to silence as much as to signal, to map not only what glows, but what does not. Imagine those long nights at the telescope, the cold dome, the faint ticking of instruments, the whisper of machinery tracking stars across the sky. Each spectrum recorded patiently, each plate developed by hand, the faintest lines of light revealing velocity and distance. The astronomers could not see the void with their eyes, but they could feel it forming in the data. A growing emptiness on the chart, a quiet revelation in the noise. When they finally confirmed it, when the pattern could no longer be ignored, they had uncovered something beyond imagination. A region where galaxies are nearly absent, and where the laws of cosmic formation stand exposed in their simplest form. The Boots void became a symbol of cosmic humility. For even our most advanced instruments, our deepest surveys, and our brightest theories all rely on one truth, that we are tiny observers floating in a vast uneven sea. That sea is not entirely smooth. It has depths and still waters, places where light gathers and places where it does not. And in those dark spaces, the universe expresses its most honest geometry. Even now, redshift mapping continues digital, automated, global. But the principle remains the same: to measure the silence, to chart the nothing, to reveal the form of what surrounds it. Every new survey, every improved telescope refines our vision of the cosmic web, and every map confirms that the Booty's void is not a solitary oddity, but a natural feature of a breathing, expanding cosmos. From the first moment Robert Kirshner's team plotted their points on paper to the vast computational maps that now stretch across screens, the story has not changed. it is still the story of light and absence, of galaxies forming walls around great hollows, of structure arising from imbalance. The discovery of the Boots void was not just a scientific milestone, it was a philosophical one. Proof that even emptiness has design, that even nothing can hold meaning. And in this discovery, the universe whispered one of its calmest truths, that to understand the whole one must also understand the hollow. The Boots void was the first great hollow we learned to see, but it would not be the last. From it grew a new language of cosmic architecture, one that speaks not only of stars and galaxies, but of silence, symmetry, and balance across unimaginable scales. So, as you rest beneath the slow rotation of your own sky, imagine that moment of realization. The astronomers at their screens, their charts spread out under quiet lamplight, tracing the contours of nothing. Imagine the stillness of that understanding settling over them, that somewhere hundreds of millions of light years away, there exists a sphere of pure absence so vast that even light struggles to describe it. And yet, that absence tells us everything. The Boots void. Once just a blank spot on a map became a mirror for the cosmos and for us. A reminder that the universe is made as much from its gaps as from its glories. That silence, too, is part of the song. The discovery of the Boots void opened a door not into the void itself, but into a new way of seeing. Astronomers who once measured the heavens as a scattered collection of stars began to sense the universe as an interwoven whole. What had seemed like randomness was suddenly revealed as pattern. What had seemed like chaos resolved into quiet structure. The void was not a mistake. It was the complement of light, the negative space that completed the cosmic form. And from that understanding emerged one of the most beautiful truths in modern astronomy, that the universe on its grandest scales is not uniform at all, but woven a delicate architecture of filaments and hollows, walls and corridors, like a vast sponge suspended in darkness. When Robert Kirshner and his colleagues mapped the Boots void, they did not only find emptiness, they found the edge of a pattern. Around the great hollow lay chains of galaxies, long filaments that curved and crossed like glowing threads. These filaments met at intersections called nodes, where superclusters of galaxies gathered like knots in a web. From each node stretched other filaments, bridging other clusters, outlining the invisible boundaries of neighboring voids. The result, when seen in its entirety, was breathtaking, a three-dimensional tapestry made not of fabric, but of gravity and time. Scientists began to call it the cosmic web, an apt name both poetic and precise. Because it is indeed a web, a structure in which galaxies are the luminous strands, and the spaces between them the quiet intervals of the universe's breath. If we could rise beyond our own galaxy, far beyond the Milky Way, beyond the Virgo cluster, beyond the Laniakea supercluster, and look down upon the universe at scales of hundreds of millions of light years, we would see this web glimmering faintly across the dark. Each thread of light would mark a filament of thousands of galaxies, each crossing a junction of unimaginable size. And between them, black pockets would open like deep lakes, the voids still and immense. The Boots void is one of the grandest of those lakes, a dark reservoir surrounded by the luminous filaments of the cosmic web. It lies, as we know, between the Hercules and Corona Borealis superclusters, like a bay between bright distant continents. The galaxies at its rim curve around its edges, their distribution tracing the smooth surface of this hollow space. They are like waves frozen at the shoreline of an invisible sea. For a long time, humans could only imagine such a structure. The idea that galaxies themselves might form filaments was once controversial. How could such enormous shapes arise? What invisible hand arranged them? But over time, evidence grew. Every new survey, from Kirshner's hand-plotted redshifts to the great digital catalogs of the Sloan Digital Sky Survey and the Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument, added more points of light, more depth to the picture. And as each new galaxy was plotted, the web grew clearer. The structure of the universe, we learned, is hierarchical. Small groups of galaxies gather into clusters. Clusters connect into filaments. Filaments into superclusters. And the superclusters themselves encircle the vast hollows of the voids. The pattern repeats at every scale, like the fractal geometry of snowflakes or coastlines. It is not smooth, but self-similar, a universe that folds and unfolds in endless reflection. When computer simulations first recreated this cosmic web, the resemblance to the living world was uncanny. The patterns looked like neural networks, like roots, like the threads of fungal mycelium beneath a forest floor. Even in the sterile equations of cosmology, there appeared the same elegance of connection that life expresses in miniature. Perhaps that is why the sight of the cosmic web moves us so deeply. It mirrors something within. The same geometry that we see in the great arrangement of galaxies echoes in the delicate structures of the brain, in the branching of trees, in the quiet spread of rivers. We are built in the image of the universe's pattern filaments and voids intertwined. And just as our thoughts travel through networks of neurons carrying meaning through emptiness, galaxies too communicate through the cosmic web. Streams of gas flow along the filaments, feeding clusters, fueling star formation. Gravity tugs across those channels, shaping the evolution of entire superclusters over eons. Even light, that ancient traveler, follows the gentle bends of the web, distorted by the invisible presence of dark matter. When astronomers map this structure, they sometimes render it as glowing threads of golden light suspended in blue shadow, the filaments shining like veins through transparent space. To see it is to glimpse the hidden skeleton of reality. It is the architecture upon which everything else rests. And yet, for all its complexity, the cosmic web arose from something simple. The small variations in density left over from the Big Bang. Gravity magnified those variations over time, turning the faint hum of the early universe into this magnificent structure, a music of motion played across billions of light years. The web is not static. It is alive with motion, though its rhythm unfolds too slowly for human eyes. Galaxies drift along the filaments like leaves along a current. Clusters merge at intersections, releasing bursts of heat and radiation that ripple outward. Voids expand their walls, thinning as galaxies flow away. Over billions of years, the cosmic web breathes a slow pulse measured not in seconds, but in eons. If we could speed time up, we would see it shimmer and change. Voids would swell, filaments would stretch, new nodes would form. The boots, void itself, would grow larger, its surrounding walls drifting farther apart, its interior growing even quieter. But what defines the beauty of this pattern is not its motion, nor even its scale. It is its balance. The universe, through the dance of gravity and expansion, has created a geometry of exquisite symmetry, light woven through darkness, matter nested in emptiness. In a way, the cosmic web resembles a kind of cosmic coral reef, fragile, intricate, alive with motion, yet surrounded by infinite sea. Its filaments are the reefs glowing and teeming with galaxies. The voids are the open waters, deep and still. Together, they form a single living system, balanced and complete. To float through the Boot's void, then, is not to leave the universe behind, but to move through one of its essential spaces, the space between things, the silence that gives the music shape. Astronomers often speak of the large-scale structure of the universe with scientific calm, but there is something profoundly philosophical in that phrase. For to see the cosmic web is to see the universe not as fragments, but as one continuous organism, each part influencing every other, connected through the invisible lines of gravity and time. Even the Boot's void, with all its silence, is connected. Invisible filaments of dark matter thread through it, faint and ghostly. These filaments link its few lonely galaxies to the grander network beyond, as if reminding them that nothing in the universe is truly alone. Even emptiness is part of the whole. From those faint connections flow gaseous currents of intergalactic hydrogen and helium, the lifeblood of galaxies. Over millions of years, that gas can drift inward, condense, and give rise to stars even within the solitude of the void. Creation, it seems, never truly stops. It simply slows, softens, finds quieter forms. When we look at the cosmic web, we also look at the past, because the light that reaches us from those distant filaments has traveled for billions of years. Each glowing strand shows the universe not as it is, but as it was. To map the web is to look backward through time, layer upon layer, until we approach the dawn of creation. In this way, the Boot's void becomes a kind of window, a deep well of time, through which we glimpse the memory of the universe's youth. Its emptiness holds not despair, but clarity. It shows us what remains when gravity's hand is still, when expansion alone paints the shape of space. To think of this pattern, to know that every bright dot in the sky belongs to one of these vast filaments, changes how we see the night. The stars above are not scattered. They are strands of a greater design, distant beads on the luminous web that holds all matter together. Even our own galaxy is but a filament's thread, one curve in a grander sculpture. The Milky Way lies at the edge of the Laniakea supercluster, which itself is just a single region of the cosmic web. Our home is one eddy in a cosmic current that stretches far beyond imagination. To gaze into the Booty's void is to look across that current into stillness, to glimpse the other side of the pattern, the silence between its chords. And yet, the web continues to grow. As the universe expands, filaments stretch thinner, but they also lengthen, connecting more distant regions. The structure becomes more refined, more elegant, more sparse. Over cosmic time, the contrast between light and dark sharpens galaxies clustering tighter voids, opening wider. The web becomes both grander and more fragile, a lacework drawn across infinity. Scientists now simulate the entire observable universe in supercomputers, tracing billions of particles of dark matter as they weave into filaments. They watch the Booty's void and its neighbors form, merge, and drift. Each simulation begins with randomness, but the same pattern emerges every time a universal fingerprint written in the laws of gravity. That repetition reveals something profound. The cosmic web is not an accident of our universe alone. It is the natural outcome of how space behaves, how matter moves, how gravity gathers and expansion releases. In other words, the web is inevitable. Given a universe, it will weave itself. And this inevitability carries quiet comfort, because it means that structure order is intrinsic, not imposed. Even from chaos, the universe finds pattern. Even from nothing, something coherent emerges. The boot's void reminds us of that law. It shows the boundary between form and formlessness, the place where structure yields to silence. It is both absence and design, both mystery and explanation. If you listen to the rhythm of this understanding, the way gravity builds filaments, the way emptiness expands, you might feel something familiar. It is the same rhythm that shapes thought and rest, motion and stillness, life and sleep. Every inhale and exhale mirrors the universe's breath. Every moment of pause mirrors the vast dark intervals that give creation its shape. When we rest, we join that rhythm. Our minds expand into stillness. Our bodies gather gravity, drawing inward, while our awareness drifts outward through space and time. In that balance, we are miniature versions of the cosmic web, luminous consciousness, surrounded by the calm of nothingness. The boot's void is one of the universe's deepest pauses, but it is not empty of meaning. It is the silence that allows the web to sing. It is the breath between galaxies, the distance that gives light its place to shine. So, when we speak of the cosmic web, this sponge-like universe of filaments and voids, we are also speaking of ourselves, because we too are part of it, our atoms forged in ancient stars, our minds structured like the filaments that span space, our hearts beating with the same rhythm as the expansion of the universe. To know the web is to know connection. To see the boot's void is to understand solitude. Together, they form the whole. And in that whole, there is serenity, a quiet acknowledgement that every light depends on darkness, every note on silence, every existence on the space that holds it. The boot's void continues to widen and the cosmic web continues to stretch. But nothing is truly lost. The pattern endures delicate, infinite calm. The universe breathes on. From the intricate lattice of the cosmic web, our attention drifts back to a single hollow, the boot's void. A space within the structure, a breath within the body of the cosmos. It is the pause that defines the sentence, the stillness that gives shape to all surrounding light. After journeying through the delicate filaments of the universe, after tracing how they wind and shimmer like threads of glass, we arrive again at the vast, dark sea between them, a space so immense that it stretches the meaning of scale itself. The boot's void is not simply large. It is scale made visible. It is the mind of the universe unfolded. Its diameter is roughly 250 to 300 million light-years. To speak that number aloud is to feel it fall apart in the mouth because it does not translate into human distance or time. Each light-year is nearly 10 trillion kilometers. 100 million of them is more than any thought can hold. If we could travel across it at the speed of light, the ultimate cosmic pace, faster than anything known, the journey would take more than 250 million years. That is longer than the time it took for life to evolve from the first reptiles to humankind. Every second of that journey, light would move through a nearly perfect vacuum through the quietest expanse the cosmos can offer. No stars to pass, no nearby galaxies to mark the way. Only blackness, vast, smooth, uninterrupted. Inside that gulf, there are perhaps 60 galaxies. A scattering faint and thin. To imagine 60 galaxies may seem abundant, but across 300 million light years, it is nearly nothing. A few sparks adrift in a cathedral of shadow. Each one may contain billions of stars, yet none is close enough to touch another's light. They live alone, solitary islands on an ocean of time. Astronomers sometimes call them void galaxies. They drift in the emptiness, far from the filaments where most galaxies gather. Some are still forming stars, their faint spiral arms glowing with new light. Others are quiet old, their gas long spent. If we could see them, they would appear as tiny smudges against black galaxies that exist but hardly shine. And yet, they persist. They prove that even here in the deepest silence, the laws of creation still hum. Hydrogen still gathers gravity, still weaves light, still kindles in the dark. Even emptiness, it seems, cannot fully extinguish the impulse to form stars. The Boot's void challenges what we mean by space. Because here, space is not background, it is the feature itself. It is the presence of nothingness as a structure, an architecture made of absence. To stand on its edge, if such a thing were possible, would be to gaze into the uncarved face of the universe, a sphere not of dust or matter, but of pure extension. If the Milky Way were placed at its center, the nearest bright galaxy would lie hundreds of millions of light years away. The night sky would not be crowded with constellations as ours is. It would be almost bare. Only a few dim galaxies, faint as breath, would adorn the horizon. No nearby spiral arms, no rich clusters. Only the slow expansion of space, quiet and cold. Imagine standing on a planet in such a galaxy, if planets could exist there, if stars had formed with the right dust and patience. Above you, the sky would be black and still. The constellations would be sparse, unrecognizable. Each galaxy a pale wisp against nothing. The universe would seem deserted. You would not know that beyond your horizon there exists a web of brilliance, that the Boot's void is only one hollow in a greater whole. From such a place, even the nearest galaxies would seem motionless. Light would take millions upon millions of years to cross the distances between them. Communication, even at light speed, would be futile. Time itself would seem to pool thick and motionless. It is difficult for us living in a galaxy crowded with stars to understand what that silence would feel like. Our own night sky is vibrant, scattered with suns, nebulae, star clusters, the faint ribbon of the Milky Way. Even in its darkness, it is full. But the void is another kind of night. It is the night behind the night, an unlit horizon where starlight barely reaches. And yet, there is beauty there. A beauty not of color or variety, but of scale and stillness. The Boot's void invites contemplation the way a deep lake invites reflection. Its surface is smooth, not because nothing happens, but because everything that does happen is slow, measured not in seconds, but in the breadth of galaxies. When astronomers calculate its mass, they find something remarkable. The Boots void could hold billions of galaxies the size of the Milky Way, yet it contains only a handful. It is, in a literal sense, almost completely hollow. But that hollowness is not chaos. It is the result of balance of gravity and expansion, working in perfect opposition, leaving behind a quiet equilibrium of near nothingness. There are other voids in the universe, the Eridanus void, the local void near our own galaxy, the massive KBC void. But Bootes remains iconic. It was the first to show the true scale of cosmic emptiness, the first to teach astronomers that the universe's texture is not uniform, but shaped by vast silences. In some ways, the Boots void is the purest expression of the universe's architecture, because it reveals the invisible pattern between all things, the negative space that defines the filaments, the silence that gives galaxies their form. Without voids, there would be no structure. Without absence, no presence. Without stillness, no sound. This understanding changes how we think of the cosmos and of ourselves. For if we are made of stardust, then we are also made of emptiness. The atoms that compose our bodies are mostly space, their electrons orbiting at distances far greater than their own size. Within each of us, there are countless tiny voids. We are full of the same hollowness that fills the Boots void, bound by the same laws, breathing the same cosmic rhythm. The void also reminds us of humility. Our entire galaxy, with its billions of suns and planets, could drift into it and vanish from sight. All human history, every poem, every discovery, every name ever spoken would fit easily into a single speck of that darkness. And yet even within such scale meaning remains. Because meaning is not a measure of size, but of connection, of how one small consciousness can reflect upon the infinite and feel at home within it. The Bootes void teaches us that the universe is not crowded but calm. Its stillness is not desolation but equilibrium. It is the deep rest of space, the long pause between acts of creation. And within that rest lies an astonishing sense of peace. In scientific terms, the void's structure is shaped by dark matter and dark energy. Dark matter, the unseen scaffolding, defines the walls of the void, the filaments where galaxies reside. Dark energy, the mysterious pressure that drives the universe's expansion, fills the void itself, pushing its edges outward. Together, they sculpt this balance of emptiness and form. The Boots void is a theater for these unseen forces. In its silence, dark energy performs unopposed. It stretches the very fabric of space faster than in denser regions, letting the hollow widen gently over time. Meanwhile, faint filaments of dark matter thread through it, ghostly veins connecting the few galaxies that remain. Even there, the web persists. Nothing in the universe is entirely alone. If we could travel along one of those invisible threads, we might pass through regions of near total nothingness, then approach one of the isolated galaxies. Its stars would appear faint, its halo thin. Perhaps a few small worlds would orbit within circling suns that have never felt the gravitational tug of neighboring galaxies. No cosmic collisions, no bursts of merging light, just quiet rotation, slow and infinite. If life existed there, it would live under a nearly black sky. Civilizations, if they ever arose, might never suspect the existence of a larger universe. They would look outward and see only darkness, believing themselves to be alone. Their telescopes might detect faint whispers of background radiation, the dying echo of the Big Bang, and wonder why the universe seems so still. And yet, they would be part of the same story. The booties, void. The filaments beyond the galaxies of Laniakea, the small planet called Earth, all share the same cosmic ancestry, the same expansion, the same laws. The same atoms drifted through the same early fog before finding their places in different corners of the web. In that sense, the void is not isolation, but connection stretched to its thinnest form. Even the most distant regions are still bound by the same gravity, bathed in the same cosmic microwave light, expanding under the same invisible pressure of dark energy. The void is an extreme expression of the universe's unity. Astronomers continue to map it with increasing precision. New telescopes trace faint galaxies near its edges. Simulations show how smaller voids merged to form this colossal hollow, a process not of destruction, but of gentle gathering, like bubbles joining in water. Each smaller void gave its space to a larger one, until the Boots void became a basin vast enough to hold time itself. To study such a place is to study the silence between events, the geometry of what does not happen. And yet, in that geometry lies the universe's deepest meaning. Because the Boots void, though seemingly empty, is full of potential. It is filled with energy, with light, passing through with expansion still unfolding. It is not nothing, but the breath of nothing, a living, expanding calm. When we imagine drifting across it, we might feel the same sensation as when we look into a deep night sky, a mixture of awe and surrender. The scale is too large to grasp, yet its stillness feels familiar. Perhaps because something in us recognizes it. Because the same silence that fills the void also fills the spaces within us, the pauses between heartbeats, the quiet between thoughts, the breath between stars. The immensity of the Boots void is not frightening once we see it as part of a rhythm. It is the universe resting between moments of creation. It is vastness in balance, emptiness in harmony. And so, when you think of that enormous hollow, that sphere of near-perfect silence adrift among galaxies, think not of absence, but of rest. For even the cosmos needs stillness. Even eternity must exhale. The Boots void rests not apart from the universe, but within it, a vast chamber folded into the larger architecture of all things. After drifting through its silence, it is natural to wonder where in the grand expanse such a place belongs. What are its borders? What lies beyond its edges? And how does a single hollow fit into the intricate map of existence to locate the Boots? Void is to step far back until the scale of galaxies themselves becomes small, until even superclusters appear like threads in an immense tapestry. At that distance, the universe resolves into something almost organic, a flowing pattern of light and shadow filaments and gaps, the living geometry of space. The Boots void lies roughly 700 million light-years away from Earth in the direction of the constellation Boots the Herdsman. When you look toward its stars on a clear spring night, you face the general direction of the void's immense heart. Behind those pinpoints of brightness, beyond the faint galaxies of Virgo and the curling arm of Coma Berenices, the darkness deepens. There, beyond sight, beyond imagination, floats that vast hollow we have come to know. It is framed by two immense walls of matter, the Hercules supercluster on one side and the Corona Borealis supercluster on the other. These great walls mark the edges of the void, like continental shelves rising from a deep sea. Between them, the Bootes void stretches outward a calm ocean between luminous shores. Its curvature is gentle, its boundaries soft. There is no sudden wall, no solid border, only a gradual thinning of galaxies until the density falls away, leaving the quiet of open space. In the three-dimensional cosmic map, this void appears like a bubble, one among many pressed between others in the grand foam of the universe. Each void touches its neighbors just as bubbles do, sharing faint boundaries, forming a continuous network of emptiness between the glowing filaments of galaxies. The Bootes void is one of the largest of these bubbles, a spacious node within the dark lattice. To imagine the universe this way requires a shift in perception. We are used to thinking of space as background, a stage upon which galaxies and stars perform. But the cosmic map shows something subtler. Space itself has structure. The voids and filaments are not scattered randomly. They are expressions of how gravity and expansion have sculpted the very shape of the cosmos. Matter flows along invisible gradients, collecting into threads and leaving hollows between them, just as rivers carve valleys between mountains. If we could float far above the Milky Way, then farther still rising beyond the cluster of Virgo, beyond the local groupings that define our neighborhood, we would see our home embedded in the Laniakea supercluster. This is the great domain to which our galaxy belongs, an immense region of space about 520 million light-years wide, containing over 100,000 galaxies. Within Laniakea, matter flows inward toward a central gravitational basin, a convergence known as the Great Attractor. Our galaxy drifts gently toward that invisible center, carried by the slow tides of cosmic motion. But even the Laniakea supercluster, vast as it seems, is only one bright patch on the larger canvas. Beyond its borders, the cosmic web continues into regions of denser filaments and deeper voids. The Bootes void lies beyond Laniakea, a little farther along the flow of space, a few 100 million light-years away. From our perspective, it is an open sea beyond the familiar continental shelf of our cosmic home. Astronomers sometimes describe these regions as cosmic basins and ridges echoing the language of terrain. The analogy is apt. If the universe were a great landscape, its filaments would be the mountain ranges, high-density ridges where galaxies cluster, and its voids would be the valleys and oceans where gravity's pull is weaker and expansion stretches space more freely. The Bootes void would be one of the deepest of these valleys, its floor wide and smooth, its slopes rising gently into the luminous continents of Hercules and Corona Borealis. Mapping such terrain is an act of patience. Unlike ordinary cartography, there are no solid landmarks, no coastlines, no mountains visible to the eye. Astronomers chart by light, by motion, by the red shift of distant galaxies. Each data point is a whisper from across millions of years, a note in a vast celestial chord. Together, those points reveal the shape of something that no eye can see directly, the architecture of everything. In that architecture, the Boots void is both vast and balanced. It is not a wound in space, not a hole torn into the universe, but an integral part of its design. Where galaxies gather elsewhere here, they thin. Where gravity deepens wells of matter, here it leaves space to expand. The void is the counterpoint to the clusters, the silence that makes the symphony whole. Even now, with modern surveys mapping millions of galaxies, the Booty's void retains its mystery. Its dimensions are better measured, its walls more defined, yet its heart remains quiet. New observations reveal faint bridges of galaxies crossing its edges, filaments that reach inward, connecting isolated galaxies like tenuous strands of webbing. These bridges show that even emptiness has threads that the web never fully breaks. There are always connections, however faint, linking the galaxies that float within. Through computer simulations, cosmologists have learned that such voids expand over time. As the universe grows, voids merge and stretch, forming ever larger hollows in the cosmic fabric. The Boots void may have formed through the union of several smaller voids, each once separated by thin filaments of galaxies that have since drifted apart. What was once a cluster of smaller hollows became one great basin of silence. Even now that merging continues slowly and imperceptibly as neighboring voids press against it, and their boundaries dissolve. In a sense, the void's edges are not static borders, but living boundaries, shifting and breathing, shaped by the slow motion of cosmic expansion. Every galaxy on its rim contributes to that shape, its gravity pulling ever so slightly on the surrounding emptiness, defining where the void ends and the web resumes. The result is something both precise and fluid, a geometry that feels almost alive. When astronomers overlay the Boots void on the greater cosmic map, they often color it in soft blue, the hue of cool emptiness, while the filaments shine in warmer gold or orange tones. The contrast is striking. The blue hollows stretch between threads of light like quiet water between currents of flame. It is a visual language of balance, stillness, and motion, darkness, and glow. The Boots void sits in the northern sky, but its influence, like all voids, extends everywhere. Because voids are not truly empty, their gravitational fields shape the motion of nearby galaxies. The surrounding superclusters are slightly drawn toward one another, their paths curved by the void's invisible weightlessness. It is as if the void itself exerts a gentle pressure, not by pulling, but by allowing others to fall toward each other. The absence of mass becomes a kind of presence. When viewed through this lens, the cosmic map becomes a meditation on contrast. The universe defines itself through difference, through places of abundance and places of near nothing. The Booty's void is a masterstroke of that design, a demonstration of how emptiness and matter coexist in seamless rhythm. Even the faint radiation that fills space, the afterglow of the Big Bang, flows differently through such regions. As the cosmic microwave background passes through the Boots void, its waves stretch slightly cooled by the expansion of the empty space they traverse. This subtle effect, known as the integrated Sachs-Wolf phenomenon, allows scientists to trace the presence of voids indirectly by detecting the faint fingerprints they leave on ancient light. In this way, even the darkness has a voice. That voice tells us that the Boots void, though quiet, is not still. Space expands faster within it than in the denser regions nearby. Over billions of years, that difference will grow. The void will widen its borders, retreating as galaxies slide farther apart. Perhaps in some distant epoch, it will merge with neighboring hollows to form an even larger basin, a vast new sea in the cosmic ocean. But even as it grows, it remains bound within the web. For every void, there is a filament. For every silence, a song. The boot's void is both absence and affirmation, one breath in the eternal expansion of space. From our small corner in the Milky Way, we can only observe it from afar, a quiet patch in the distant universe, a shadow on the cosmic map. Yet the knowledge of it changes how we feel about our own place. We realize that we too live on the edge of a void balanced between fullness and emptiness, between the dense walls of galaxies and the open plains of intergalactic space. Our home, the Laniakea supercluster, is bordered by its own hollows, its own stretches of quiet. We live in the web's middle ground where light and darkness meet. To know the Booty's void is to understand that even emptiness is a coordinate, a location in a grander pattern. It gives meaning to everything around it, as silence gives meaning to sound. And by mapping it, we learn not only where galaxies are, but where they are not and why. The cosmic map, then, is both scientific and sacred. It is a portrait of balance of fullness and emptiness drawn together by the same invisible forces. It reminds us that the universe is not chaos, but composition. Every void, every filament, every cluster contributes to a harmony larger than itself. When you look at the night sky tonight, you are looking across that composition. The stars that shine above you belong to a single thread in the web. Beyond them lie millions more arranged in a pattern of breathtaking subtlety. And beyond those, the voids, serene and patient, holding the rhythm of the cosmos in their silence. The Boot's void, among all of them, is one of the deepest pauses, a moment in the universe's great breath, a silence that speaks of structure and stillness intertwined. We are each of us mapped within it. Every atom of our being sits somewhere on that same cosmic chart, bound by the same geometry that holds galaxies and voids in balance. To see the map is to see ourselves not as isolated points, but as part of a grand continuum of light and calm. The Boot's void is not far away in spirit. It lives within the same stillness that exists between our thoughts, the same openness that fills our quiet moments. It reminds us that emptiness is not absence, but awareness, the space that allows everything else to be. And so the map unfolds before us, infinite and serene filaments and voids, galaxies and shadows expanding gently, endlessly together. The Booty's void, so quiet in its vastness, exists because the universe itself is never still. It expands. It pulls. It stretches. It gathers. It breathes in forces unseen gravity and dark energy. And from their opposing rhythms, the shape of existence emerges. From the cosmic map we just traced, one can sense the outline of those forces, the invisible framework that holds galaxies in place, and the equally invisible pressure that drives them apart. To understand the Booty's void, we must return to those quiet architects' gravity, the gatherer, and dark matter its silent servant. And opposite them, dark energy, the infinite exhalation of the cosmos itself. These are not forces in the human sense. They are the grammar of reality, the underlying motion written into space and time. They do not fight each other. They compose each other as melody and silence compose a song. Gravity is the oldest of the universe's storytellers. It speaks through attraction, drawing matter together across endless distances. Every star, every planet, every galaxy, every atom of your body is shaped by its invisible voice. In the earliest ages, after the Big Bang released its first breath, the universe was filled with soft, glowing fog. Hydrogen and helium spread evenly across space, but not perfectly evenly. There were tiny ripples, small pockets where the fog was slightly thicker or thinner. Those imperfections were gravity's invitation. In the denser regions, gravity whispered, "Come closer." Matter obeyed. Atoms drifted inward, gathering slowly, forming the first seeds of stars and galaxies. And where the fog was thin, gravity's voice was quieter. Those regions expanded faster. Their matter stretched outward, leaving behind what would become the voids, vast echoing rooms between walls of light. The Boots void is one of those rooms, a cathedral of gravity's restraint. It is what remains when the sculptor chooses to leave a space uncarved. Over billions of years, the dense regions grew richer, more galaxies, more clusters, more light. The emptier regions grew poorer, less matter, less gravity, more distance. The result was contrast. The bright filaments of the cosmic web surrounded by hollows like boots. The universe organized itself through this gentle inequality, the eternal rhythm of more here, less there. Gravity gathered the visible, but it did not act alone. Its true strength came from something unseen, the mysterious massive fabric known as dark matter. Dark matter makes up about 85% of all the matter in the universe. Yet it emits no light, no radiation, no signal we can directly detect. It does not shine, nor reflect, nor scatter. It reveals itself only through its gravity, through the way it bends light from distant galaxies, through the way it anchors the motion of stars. Without it, galaxies would not exist. Their stars would drift apart. Their arms would unwind, their clusters would never form. Dark matter is the glue of structure. In the beginning, before stars or galaxies, it gathered first, forming invisible halos and filaments, long before ordinary matter could cool and condense. These filaments became the scaffolding of the cosmic web, a skeleton upon which all luminous matter would later grow. If you could see dark matter, if your eyes could detect gravity instead of light, the universe would appear as an intricate network of glowing strands, more intricate than any living tissue. And along those strands, galaxies would glitter like dust caught in sunlight. Between them, you would see the wide, dark basins, the voids. In the Boots void, dark matter exists too faintly, thinly spread like smoke. There is not enough of it to anchor galaxies close together. Its density is low, its gravitational pull weak. Without that hidden weight, ordinary matter could not settle, could not build stars. And so the region remained hollow. Astronomers believe that the Boots void began as a region slightly lacking in dark matter, a cosmic hollow born of the universe's earliest fluctuations. As nearby regions grew denser, this one stretched thinner. Gravity did not fail there. It simply had too little to work with, and so across billions of years, emptiness deepened. When we map dark matter through gravitational lensing, the bending of light from distant galaxies, the void reveals its presence indirectly. Light passing through the Bootes void is deflected slightly less than through denser regions, confirming the thinness of its invisible mass. The void, though seemingly nothing, still weighs less. It is lighter than the surrounding space, a bubble of near nothing in the ocean of the cosmic web. But this absence of dark matter is not void of meaning. It shows that even emptiness has form. Even darkness follows law. The Bootes void is not chaos. It is equilibrium. It is the soft balance between what gathers and what releases. And while dark matter shapes the structure of the universe, something greater still shapes its motion, the mysterious expansion we call dark energy. In the late 1990s, astronomers measuring the light of distant supernovae discovered something astonishing. The universe is not merely expanding, it is accelerating. The distances between galaxies grow faster and faster, as if space itself is stretching more eagerly with time. This acceleration cannot be explained by gravity or by matter. Something else is pushing something diffuse, invisible, and smooth, woven into the very fabric of space-time. They named it dark energy. It does not gather like gravity, and it does not clump like matter. It flows evenly through space, everywhere and nowhere, driving the universe apart. Its nature is still a mystery. Perhaps the energy of empty space itself, or a property of the universe's geometry, or something deeper still. Whatever it is, dark energy defines the fate of all things. In places dense with matter clusters, galaxies, stars, gravity still holds sway. But in the wide voids, dark energy reigns. There its influence is unopposed. Space expands freely, unhindered by mass or pressure. The Bootes void is one of the purest regions for this expansion, a place where dark energy breathes easily, stretching the universe with gentle persistence. This is why the Bootes void continues to widen even now. Not because something consumes its edges, but because space itself grows. The galaxies at its borders drift away from one another, their light red-shifting slowly, silently across the dark. Over cosmic time, this expansion will continue. The filaments will thin, the clusters will retreat, and the voids will grow. Perhaps one day, far in the future, the Bootes void will merge with its neighbors, forming an even grander emptiness, a supervoid so vast that entire superclusters could fit inside. To some, this fate seems lonely. But in the rhythm of the universe, it is simply another breath, the long exhale of creation. Gravity and dark energy are not enemies. They are two sides of the same cosmic motion contraction and release inhalation and exhalation. Through their interplay structure arises. Where gravity gathers, galaxies bloom. Where dark energy stretches, voids open. Together, they weave the pattern of existence, density, and silence, light and shadow cluster, and void. The Bootes void is one verse in that cosmic poem, the stanza of emptiness that makes the song whole. Even dark matter participates in this rhythm, forming filaments that bridge the gap between the two. In the Bootes void, faint filaments still stretch through the emptiness, invisible threads of gravity connecting the few galaxies that drift there. They are reminders that nothing is truly separate. Even in isolation, connection remains. Astronomers sometimes describe these filaments as tunnels of gravity. Through them, matter can flow not quickly, but over billions of years. They are like veins through which the universe circulates its mass, keeping its balance between gathering and dispersing. In this sense, the Boot's void is not static. It is dynamic breathing alive in the slowest possible way. We might imagine the Boot's void as the quiet space between two great symphonic movements, the pause that allows the next crescendo to begin. Its silence is not the end of motion. It is the waiting between motions. Gravity and dark energy continue their dialogue there, unseen but unceasing. As time continues, the cosmic web will evolve. Gravity will continue to pull galaxies together in clusters, even as dark energy pulls those clusters apart. The result will be a universe that becomes more fragmented, more isolated, more void-filled. The Boots. Void offers a glimpse of that future, a universe where galaxies are islands in an ever-widening sea. In trillions of years, perhaps, the stars themselves will fade. Their light will dim. The filaments will stretch beyond visibility, and what remains will resemble the Boot's void on a cosmic scale, darkness and silence balanced and vast. But even then, energy will not disappear. It will continue to exist in subtle forms in the expansion of space, in the hum of quantum fields, in the rhythm of time. The void, far from being the end, is the beginning of rest. It is the cosmic equivalent of sleep, the soft exhalation after eons of activity. And like sleep, it is not death, but renewal. It is the silence that restores balance, the pause that allows creation to breathe again. When we think of dark matter and dark energy, we often imagine them as mysteries, things beyond our comprehension, and yet they are not alien to us. They are the same laws that hold us together, that shape the space between atoms, that curve the paths of planets and hearts alike. Gravity binds your body to the earth, just as it binds galaxies to filaments. Dark matter anchors the stars that forged your atoms. Dark energy expands the very space you inhabit, gently stretching the distances between all things, even as you breathe. You are not separate from these forces. You are made of them, a small luminous node in the same grand web. When you feel stillness, you echo the calm of the void. When you breathe, you mirror the universe's expansion. When you sleep, your body enters the same peace that fills the Boot's void, a quiet balance of gravity and release. And so, as we look outward to understand emptiness, we are also looking inward. The same invisible architecture holds our lives in balance. The same dark energy that stretches galaxies apart gives us room to exist between thoughts, between breaths, between moments. The Boot's void is not only an object of science, it is a meditation on balance. It shows us that even the universe, vast and incomprehensible, rests in harmony between opposing forces. It is not a battle, but a dance. Not a collapse, but a continual unfolding. Gravity gathers. Dark matter anchors. Dark energy releases. Together they write the rhythm of the cosmos, the music of everything and nothing intertwined. And within that music, the Boot's void is the pause, the moment of silence that gives meaning to the sound. The Boot's void, vast and dark, is not only a wonder to behold in imagination, it is also a window into the universe's hidden laws. From its immense silence, scientists learn to hear the faintest whispers of creation. It is paradoxical and beautiful that in studying emptiness, we uncover the nature of everything that exists. In the last part, we wandered through the invisible forces shaping the cosmos. Gravity, dark matter, dark energy, and saw how their balance gives rise to both fullness and emptiness. Now we enter a realm of quiet observation, how those great voids, like boots, become natural laboratories, pristine chambers where the universe's most subtle phenomena can be studied in their purest form. For astronomers, cosmic voids are not absence, they are clarity. They are places where the noise of crowded matter falls away, where the expansion of space can be measured cleanly, where dark energy reveals its strength in slow, gentle motion. Each void is a cosmic experiment, vast, silent, ongoing, written not in equipment and equations, but in the geometry of the universe itself. When scientists study galaxies in dense clusters, gravity complicates the picture. Galaxies pull on each other. Their motions twist and distort. Their light bends under immense mass. But within a void, those entanglements fade. There is little mass to disturb the background expansion. Space stretches almost uniformly like a smooth breath expanding the chest of the cosmos. This makes voids invaluable to cosmology. By observing how galaxies move along the edges of voids, astronomers can measure the rate at which the universe expands the fingerprint of dark energy itself. Each void acts like a natural probe of cosmic acceleration. The more gently its edges drift outward, the stronger the invisible pressure driving them. In the boot's void, that pressure is almost pure. Its interior contains few gravitational disturbances, few galaxies to resist expansion. There, the balance between gravity and dark energy tilts toward release, offering a near-perfect laboratory for understanding how the universe's growth changes with time. When we imagine scientists studying such distant stillness, it can feel abstract instruments pointed into darkness, gathering faint signals from the edge of nothing. But what they are truly observing is the heartbeat of the universe. Every void's expansion, every subtle drift of galaxies, reveals how space itself moves and breathes. To measure that movement, astronomers rely on delicate techniques, the shifting of light, the mapping of redshift patterns, the statistical dance of galaxies on cosmic scales. They compare how light travels through voids versus through clusters, noting the smallest variations in wavelength mere fractions of a percent, yet enough to chart the rhythm of the universe's pulse. Through these studies, the Booty's void becomes not just an absence, but a mirror of time. Its stillness holds information about the cosmos's past and hints about its future. The emptier it is, the more it reflects the universe's destiny of expansion. In nature, simplicity often unveils complexity. A single drop of water reveals the principles of fluid motion. A grain of sand shows how mountains erode, and a single void reveals how the entire universe evolves, the Boot's void. With its vast calm, allows scientists to isolate cosmic forces. Without the interference of tangled gravity wells, the geometry of space can be studied in its most unperturbed form. It is as though the universe has cleared a quiet room for observation where the underlying structure of space-time can speak clearly. In this quiet, we can test our deepest theories. We can measure how matter and light behave in the near absence of mass. We can see whether dark energy behaves uniformly or varies across regions. We can ask questions about the universe's shape, its fate, its true size. And the answers come slowly, as all answers in astronomy do not in sudden revelation, but in accumulation. Each faint galaxy at the edge of the void contributes a data point. Each photon traveling through it adds a whisper of information. Over decades, these whispers form a chorus, a slow, patient unveiling of the laws that govern reality. In this way, the Boots void becomes more than a scientific curiosity. It becomes a lens for understanding. It reminds us that even emptiness can be a teacher, that silence itself holds the deepest instructions about the nature of being. The expansion of space is subtle. It does not tear galaxies apart or stretch stars thinner. It acts only between systems not bound by gravity, between galaxy clusters, between superclusters, between filaments. There the universe grows. Voids are where this expansion is most visible. When astronomers map the motions of galaxies surrounding a void, they find something remarkable. The galaxies are not motionless. They drift gently away from the void's center as if carried by an unseen current. The void itself expands, pushing its edges outward into the surrounding filaments. This phenomenon, called void expansion, flow offers a direct window into the effect of dark energy. The rate of that expansion helps scientists estimate the universe's age and its ultimate fate. If the flow is faster than predicted, it may mean that dark energy grows stronger with time. If slower, it may suggest that gravity still holds greater sway. Each measurement fine-tunes our cosmic map, refining our understanding of how the universe breathes. In the Bootes void, these motions are particularly subtle, a slow outward sigh that has continued for billions of years. Galaxies at its boundary feel a faint pull away from the center, a gentle acceleration powered not by explosion, but by the steady stretching of space-time. To measure that drift is to listen to the faintest rhythm imaginable, the heartbeat of infinity beating once every 100 million years. Even silence moves. Even emptiness grows. And by observing that growth, we learn to measure time not in seconds, but in the quiet expansion of the universe itself. Though nearly empty voids are not truly vacant, they are filled with faint radiation, ancient light still traveling through them since the dawn of creation. This light, the cosmic microwave background CMB, is the soft afterglow of the Big Bang stretched over 13 billion years into gentle microwaves that fill all of space. When this background light passes through a void, its journey changes ever so slightly. Because there is less gravity there, the light loses a bit of energy. It stretches, cools, and fades. This effect, subtle but measurable, allows scientists to detect voids by their impact on the CMB. Even emptiness leaves a trace. In this way, the Bootes void becomes not only a structure of space, but a filter for ancient light, a lens through which we can study the earliest moments of the cosmos. By measuring the way the CMB changes as it passes through, we learn about the density, shape, and age of the void, and by extension, the universe itself. It is astonishing that a region defined by nothing can still change light. But that is the essence of cosmic beauty. Even emptiness participates in the story. Even nothing leaves fingerprints. Within the Bootes void drift about 60 known galaxies, small, dim, and far apart. To astronomers, they are treasures. Each is a natural experiment, an isolated world unshaped by collisions or interactions with neighbors. In dense regions of the universe, galaxies influence each other constantly, merging, stripping gas, triggering bursts of new stars. But in the void, they evolve alone. By studying these void galaxies, astronomers learn how galaxies grow when left untouched, how they form stars, how their structures mature, how their chemistry changes over time. They are galaxies living in solitude undisturbed by the crowded social dance of the cosmic city. Some are faint spirals, their arms thin and ghostly. Others are irregular, shaped by internal turbulence rather than external encounters. A few astonishingly still form new stars, slowly, gently, from the sparse gas that drifts through the void. Their isolation makes them pristine. Their light carries a story free from interference, a chronicle of what galaxies become when time moves quietly. In that way, the void is not lifeless, it is contemplative. It offers galaxies the silence to find their natural rhythm. If one were to stand within such a galaxy on a small planet, orbiting a faint sun, the night sky would be nearly blank. A few smudges of distant galaxies might decorate the horizon, but mostly there would be darkness. The stars would be fewer, the constellations sparse. The very texture of existence would feel thinner. And yet even there, physics would sing the same tune, atoms would hum, light would move, gravity would whisper. Emptiness would not be void of meaning. It would be full of quiet order. There is something deeply symbolic about how scientists use voids to study the universe. They look not at what is full, but at what is empty. They seek not brightness, but its absence. They measure silence to understand sound. In this way, astronomy mirrors meditation. Just as one listens to silence to hear the mind's rhythm, astronomers listen to the stillness between galaxies to hear the universe's pulse. The Boot's void then becomes a place of reflection, both scientific and spiritual. It invites humility, patience, and awe. Its vastness teaches that understanding often comes not from what we add, but from what we allow ourselves to perceive in stillness. The more scientists study voids, the more they realize that the universe's greatest lessons are whispered through its quietest spaces. The voids reveal that expansion continues. They confirm that dark energy fills all space. They show that structure and silence are intertwined, that nothingness is as real as matter. To study the Boot's void is to stand at the intersection of science and philosophy, where observation becomes contemplation. In the truest sense, the universe needs no lab. It is the laboratory. Every galaxy is an experiment. Every void a control. The Boot's void is the purest control imaginable, the nearest thing to nothing that nature can provide. Here, cosmic laws act without interference. The expansion of space, the influence of dark energy, the faint geometry of gravity all play out clearly undisturbed by density or heat. It is as if the universe built its own chamber of understanding, a region so vast and simple that its behavior reveals the fundamental workings of reality. Astronomers, in studying it, participate in the universe studying itself. For we too are products of its structure, small concentrations of matter and mind reflecting on the vast emptiness that made us possible. In that reflection lies a profound symmetry. We are made of starlight and void alike. We are density within emptiness, thought within silence. The Boot's void is not separate from us. It is part of the same continuum, the same breathing cosmos that carries our atoms, our thoughts, our dreams. By observing it, we come closer to understanding not only the universe, but the stillness within ourselves. In this immense laboratory, experiments unfold not in seconds or years, but in epochs and eons. The data is written not in ink, but in the shifting of galaxies, the cooling of light, the deepening of space. And yet, every result leads back to the same quiet conclusion. Emptiness is not nothing. It is a form of being stretched thin across infinity. The boot's void remains, as always, both question and answer. It asks, what is the shape of nothing? And it answers. It is the shape of everything else. So let the mind drift softly now across its borders. Let the quiet of the void echo through thought itself. For in that silence, the universe continues its work, observing, expanding, balancing, endlessly, beautifully. The Booty's void, vast and still, has guided us through the architecture of the universe, through maps and filaments, through gravity's sculpting hand and dark energy's quiet expansion. Now we drift deeper, not as observers of galaxies, but as dreamers wondering softly about life. What would it mean to exist within such an emptiness? Could consciousness ever arise there? Could a civilization look into that dark sky and wonder as we do if anyone else exists? The thought itself feels like meditation to imagine life inside a place nearly devoid of light. And yet, within the Booty's void, there are still galaxies. Not many, perhaps 60 scattered like seeds on the wind, but enough to hold suns, planets, and the slow chemistry of creation. Even there, even in the universe's loneliest corner, life might still find a way. The galaxies inside the Boot's void are few, fragile, and widely spaced. Each one is a universe of its own, billions of stars surrounded by endless night. The nearest neighbor might be 100 million light-years away, far beyond the reach of any conceivable communication. Astronomers call them void galaxies. They have names like MCG +0102015, NGC 6027b, or PGC 54559. Designations that sound cold and technical, yet each one describes a vast, glowing world. Most are faint spirals or irregulars, low in mass and low in brightness. Some are still forming stars. Others drift in slow decay, their fuel nearly gone. They exist in quiet isolation, untouched by the collisions and mergers that shape galaxies in crowded regions. There are no neighboring giants to disturb them, no gravitational tides to twist their disks, no bursts of starlight triggered by close encounters. Their evolution is gentle, their histories unhurried. They are the meditative galaxies of the cosmos, slow, contemplative, self-contained. When astronomers study them, they find differences from their more social cousins. Their gas is often pristine, less enriched by heavy elements. Their shapes are more irregular, their spiral arms looser. They appear to grow from within rather than through outside influence. It is as if they are practicing a kind of cosmic solitude, finding form in their own rhythm. And within these quiet galaxies, stars still shine. Planets still orbit. Perhaps on some of those worlds, life breathes beneath distant suns. If we imagine standing on such a planet in one of those isolated galaxies, the night sky would be profoundly different from our own. Here on Earth, the Milky Way stretches across the heavens, a river of light dense with stars. Even with the naked eye, thousands of points shimmer above. but inside the booty's void, the sky would be spare. The local stars would still shine, perhaps a few thousand visible, depending on distance and clarity, yet beyond them there would be almost nothing. No neighboring galaxies glowing nearby, no thick band of Milky Way-like light, only blackness, deep and almost absolute. A few faint smudges might mark the presence of distant galaxies at the void's edges, but they would be ghostly dim, tiny, almost uncertain. The universe would appear small, finite, perhaps lonely. And yet, the same cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, would still fill the sky, invisible to the eye, but present nonetheless. That faint radiation would bathe every atom, every mind that might exist there, reminding them that even in emptiness, the echo of creation endures. It is humbling to think that light from our own Milky Way crosses that darkness, now traveling quietly through the boot's void. Perhaps far away it passes near one of those small galaxies, faint starlight from one civilization's sky meeting the faint starlight of another's, both vanishing into the endless calm. Loneliness in cosmic terms is not sorrow. It is distance, the natural condition of a vast and expanding universe. Even our own galaxy, dense with stars, is an island in space. But the boot's void magnifies that isolation until it becomes almost sacred. For any beings that might exist within it, the nearest bright galaxies would be so distant that even the concept of others might not arise. They would live in a cosmos that appears finite, singular, their own galaxy, the only visible realm. Their cosmology would be small, intimate, self-contained. Would they sense the greater universe beyond? Would they dream of unseen stars, or imagine that the darkness hides something more? Or would they accept the stillness, living in a world where the night sky itself teaches silence? We cannot know, but perhaps in that imagined quiet life might develop a deeper sense of unity. Without neighbors to fear or emulate, without a bright horizon of competing lights, a civilization in the void might turn inward, not in despair, but in contemplation. Its gaze might shift from outward expansion to inward reflection, from conquest to peace. In that way, the boot's void is both a physical emptiness and a philosophical mirror. It shows us what remains when all distraction is removed, when the universe becomes a single solitary breath. Astrobiologists often wonder where life can survive. We look for warm, wet planets, for suns that burn steadily, for chemical complexity. But perhaps in the immense solitude of the void, life would adapt differently, slower, fainter, more enduring. In such galaxies, star formation proceeds quietly, and radiation is low. There are fewer nearby supernovae, fewer gravitational disruptions. A planet in the void might orbit its star in peace for billions of years, undisturbed by cosmic violence. That stability, though surrounded by emptiness, could offer safety. Life there might evolve not in abundance, but in restraint. Sparse ecosystems, minimal energy, long cycles of dormancy and renewal. Perhaps its beings would think in longer timescales, living slowly, conserving their warmth like embers in the cold. Theirs would be a civilization of patience, a philosophy of endurance. They would measure progress not in speed, but in stillness, a reflection of their environment's vast calm. Even their technology, if it arose, might be simple and subtle, tuned to faint signals conserving every atom of energy existing in harmony with the quiet. And if such beings ever built telescopes and turned them toward the darkness beyond, they might detect what we do not, the fine pulse of the universe's expansion, the delicate fingerprints of dark energy, the faint hum of intergalactic radiation. Living in silence might grant them the ears to hear what noise obscures. The Boot's void, in that sense, could be the universe's monastery, a place where consciousness, if it exists, would learn directly from emptiness. Communication across the void would be almost impossible. Light itself travels too slowly to bridge its vastness in any meaningful span of time. Even if civilizations on opposite edges of the void sent messages, they would take hundreds of millions of years to arrive long after both senders had changed beyond recognition. And yet the universe is patient. Light does not tire. Signals once sent continue forever stretching and fading, but never truly gone. Even now, our own radio transmissions, our faint electromagnetic heartbeat, are traveling outward through the cosmos. Some of those waves may one day cross the border of the Boot's void, passing silently through its emptiness, a brief flicker of information in an otherwise eternal night. Perhaps somewhere a lonely galaxy receives that whisper, not with ears, but with instruments or senses far beyond ours. Perhaps they detect a faint pattern, a rhythm of transmission, and wonder what distant minds could have made it. Perhaps they too have wondered if they are alone. In that moment, one beam of energy crossing hundreds of millions of light years, the void becomes a bridge. For even emptiness can carry connection. Even silence can deliver sound. The Buddha's void reminds us that life and loneliness are not opposites. They are complements, two halves of the same cosmic experience. Without solitude, there is no awareness of unity. Without emptiness, no understanding of fullness. Here on Earth, surrounded by stars and galaxies, we imagine ourselves small. But in the void, the scale reverses. A single living cell would be the rarest thing for billions of light years around. A thought, a breath, a heartbeat, miracles against the infinite quiet. In that perspective, loneliness becomes reverence. The silence of the void is not absence. It is listening. It is the universe awaiting its next word. Perhaps somewhere, life within the Boot's void has already spoken not with sound, but with the quiet endurance of existence itself. The lesson of the void, then, is simple and eternal. Even in the greatest emptiness, being endures. Even in solitude, connection persists through physics, through gravity, through the shared light of creation that threads all galaxies together. Every photon that crosses the void carries that truth. Every ripple of space, every echo of the Big Bang, every faint radio wave all say the same thing, that silence is not the end of communication, but its beginning. When we gaze into the Boot's void, we are not only looking outward, we are also looking inward into the spaciousness within our own minds. Each of us contains our own voids, the quiet intervals between thoughts, the pauses between breaths, the moments of stillness between desires. In those moments, we too are laboratories of emptiness. Just as astronomers study the void to learn the nature of the universe, we can study silence to learn the nature of ourselves. In stillness, we can see what moves us. In emptiness, we can feel what remains. The Boots void, 700 million light-years away, mirrors the same stillness that exists in every heartbeat. It is the same balance between fullness and quiet that shapes galaxies and thoughts alike. When we breathe slowly, when we let the mind drift open, we mirror the calm of that distant hollow. We become part of the same rhythm, expanding, contracting, resting being. The universe teaches through repetition. It builds galaxies and minds from the same atoms, shaped by the same forces, learning the same truths. And one of those truths is that isolation is never absolute. Even emptiness belongs. Inside the Boots void, galaxies continue to turn. Stars continue to form. Light continues to travel. Space continues to expand. There is motion even in stillness, change even in silence. If we could speed up time and watch from afar, we would see those lonely galaxies drift ever farther apart, the void widening its borders, softening. We would see light from distant superclusters fade to invisibility, leaving behind a deeper darkness. And yet the same laws would hold. The same energy would fill space. The same harmony would unfold, unseen, unbroken. For all its immensity, the Booties void is not an ending. It is an ongoing moment, a stillness that lasts billions of years, a pause in the great expansion of being. In its silence, we can sense the universe's patience, infinite, unhurried, balanced. If life exists there, it too must live in patience. If not, then the void itself remains the lesson that the universe, even in its quietest spaces, remains alive. The Boots void is the closest thing to pure silence the cosmos can offer, but even silence hums. It hums with the faint stretch of space, the passage of ancient light, the unending rhythm of existence. And when we listen to it, even across light years of imagination, we hear something familiar, the echo of our own calm. The Boots void lingers in thought like a long-held breath, still patient, immense. Through it, we have drifted across galaxies, through maps of gravity and webs of light, through forces that sculpt and stretch, through the imagined skies of lonely worlds. Now we arrive at the heart of the meditation, not a physical place, but an understanding the nature of nothingness itself. Because the Boots void is more than a hole in the universe. It is a shape carved by absence, a reminder that emptiness is not a lack of being, but another form of it. It asks a quiet question. What is the meaning of a space so vast, so silent, so nearly devoid of all that shines? And it answers softly that even nothing is something, and that every silence is part of a greater song. To imagine nothing is impossible. The mind always fills it with something: darkness, still air, an idea of quiet space. But real cosmic emptiness is not blackness or air. It is thinner than any thought can hold. It is the near total absence of atoms, the near perfect smoothness of space itself. Yet even there, something hums. Inside the Boots void, there is still radiation from the Big Bang, still rare particles gliding unseen, still gravity's invisible hand maintaining balance. Even the vacuum is never truly empty. It flickers with virtual energy, with quantum whispers that arise and vanish in fractions of time. The void is not nothing. It is the calm between somethings. It is the sea between islands, the silence between breaths. Astronomers measure its density, how much matter it lacks, and call it underdense. But words like under and less are imprecise for what it truly is. Because within that emptiness lies structure, order, and profound consistency. The void is as real as necessary and as beautiful as the filaments of galaxies that define its edges. The boot's void exists not as an error, but as part of the universe's symmetry. Without hollows, there would be no walls. Without stillness, no motion. Every star owes its brilliance to the darkness that surrounds it. Every galaxy owes its shape to the emptiness that allows it to grow. And so the universe in its infinite wisdom balances abundance with absence, filling itself with spaces where it can rest. The word nothing carries a weight it doesn't deserve. We use it to mean lack, failure, end. But in the cosmos, nothingness is equilibrium. It is the natural counterpart of form. In the booty's void, gravity's reach fades, but it does not vanish. The expansion of space is gentle but not chaotic. There is order, even in the stillness, invisible equations governing invisible particles, light traveling calmly through unfathomable distance. This is not disorder. It is harmony, stretched thin. If the universe were perfectly full matter evenly spread, it would be static and dull, a smooth, lifeless soup. But because it is uneven, because there are dense places and empty ones, it can evolve. It can create. Voids paradoxically make structure possible. They are the spacious counterweights that allow galaxies to cluster stars, to burn life, to breathe. The boot's void, then, is not the absence of meaning, but the frame that gives meaning to everything else. It is the cosmic version of pause, of rest, of stillness. It is what allows time and energy to flow without collapse. The universe teaches balance through its very shape, fullness and emptiness, compression and expansion, sound and silence, all coexisting, each defining the other. Even in its vast emptiness, the boot's void is not perfectly calm. It vibrates faintly with the background radiation of the early universe, a temperature just a few degrees above absolute zero. It trembles with the quantum foam beneath all space where particles pop in and out of being. It stretches infinitesimally as dark energy expands the cosmos itself. These motions are delicate, so subtle that they could be mistaken for stillness. But to a patient observer, they are the slowest heartbeat in existence. Each moment, space expands a little more. Each second, light passes freely through, unhindered by dust or matter. Each century, its edges widen as though the void itself were breathing. Scientists study this breath, how fast it expands, how its shape evolves, and in doing so glimpse the laws that govern all of creation. The void is a testing ground for the universe's simplest truth, that even nothing must obey the same rules as everything. In the boot's void, gravity has nearly no power. There is almost nothing for it to hold. And yet even in that emptiness, it persists, shaping what little matter remains, guiding the faint drift of galaxies across millions of light years. Like a memory that refuses to fade, gravity continues its soft influence, invisible but enduring. Even nothing cannot escape the laws of being. There is a kind of holiness in the boot's void, not in the religious sense, but in the contemplative one. The holiness of pure form, pure space, pure being. It is the part of the universe that simply is without ornament or purpose, beyond balance. Many ancient traditions speak of emptiness not as a void to fear, but as the foundation of awareness. In Buddhism, shunyata emptiness is not negation, but openness, the fertile space from which all things arise. In Taoism, the empty center of the wheel is what makes motion possible. In physics, the vacuum is not absence, but potential, the ground state of reality itself. The Buddhi's void embodies all of these truths. It is both nothing and everything, the visible manifestation of the universe's deepest principle, that existence depends on emptiness. Without the void, there would be no contrast, no boundaries, no awareness. It is the pause that allows the next note, the silence that makes the song. Every galaxy, every human, every atom exists because the universe includes space, because it is not entirely full. So when we contemplate the Buddha's void, we are not gazing into despair. We are witnessing the universe's meditation, a moment of stillness written in geometry, a vast inward breath that balances all outward creation. The void outside and the void within are reflections of the same pattern. In both, quiet allows clarity. In both, emptiness gives rise to perception. Inside the mind, stillness allows thought to settle. When distractions fall away, what remains is awareness, clear, open, infinite. Likewise, the Buddha's void, though vast and dark, is clarity on a cosmic scale, the place where the universe reveals its underlying structure without noise. To meditate is to become like the void, spacious, calm, and without resistance. Thoughts move through as galaxies drift through space. Awareness expands as the universe does, slowly, endlessly, without center or edge. The Buddha's void is not a place of nothing. It is a reminder that quiet is not absence. It is presence in its purest form. When we rest beneath the stars and feel the depth of night, we experience a fraction of that same vast stillness. The silence between stars mirrors the silence within us. And in both, there is peace. Science describes the Buddha's void in precise language, under density, megaparsecs, redshift expansion rate. But these words, though accurate, do not capture its experience. For to imagine a region 300 million light-years wide, nearly empty, is to feel something beyond numbers, something closer to poetry. Poetry and science are not opposites here. They are complementary ways of seeing. Science measures. Poetry feels. Science explains the shape. Poetry reveals the meaning of that shape. The Buddha's void demands both. It invites the mind to calculate and the heart to contemplate. It shows that even the coldest, emptiest regions of the universe can stir warmth in our imagination, not because they are lifeless, but because they express a truth that life itself depends upon. That meaning arises not from abundance, but from the space that allows abundance to exist. Without pauses, speech becomes noise. Without spaces, music becomes chaos. Without emptiness, the universe would have no form, no motion, no contrast. The Buddha's void is the universe's longest pause. A silence that makes all sound possible. In the distant future, the Buddha's void will continue to expand. Its galaxies will drift even farther apart. The faint filaments of dark matter will thin their connections, dissolving. One day, perhaps even the few remaining galaxies within it will slip beyond each other's horizons, their light stretched by expansion until it can no longer cross the distance between them. At that point, each galaxy will live alone in its own darkness, unaware that others ever existed. The void will deepen, but not as a grave, as a final resting of motion, a serene stillness. And the universe in that far epoch will resemble the Boot's void on a grand scale, a cosmos of quiet, a sea of nothingness that is not death, but completion. This is the ultimate destiny of expansion, not collapse, but calm. Not explosion, but equilibrium. The same principle that shaped the Boot's void will one day shape everything. The universe, too, will find its still point. And in that infinite rest, perhaps the same balance will hold energy and emptiness, light and silence, endlessly coexisting, endlessly aware. To ask what the Booty's void means is to ask what the universe itself means. It does not offer answers in words, only an example. It teaches without sound, showing us that creation is not the opposite of nothingness, but its expression. The void is not waiting to be filled. It is fullness stretched to its quietest limit. Its existence proves that even what seems empty can have structure, weight, temperature, and purpose. In that sense, nothingness is not nihilism. It is balance, patience, and grace. When we see the Boot's void, we see the universe at peace with itself. It is the cosmos resting, breathing between acts of creation. It is the great stillness beneath all motion, the calm sea on which galaxies sail. And when we recognize that stillness, we also recognize our place within it. We are not outside the void, we are within it. Every space between atoms, every gap between thoughts, every night sky we gaze into, all are part of the same emptiness. The Booty's void simply magnifies what already surrounds and sustains us. We are beings of matter suspended in a universe that is mostly space. We are islands of form floating in an ocean of formlessness, and both the island and the sea are sacred. If the universe could dream, the Boot's void would be its moment of deepest sleep, the phase where thought gives way to silence, where movement surrenders to rest. It is the proof that not all power is loud, not all creation burns. Some of it whispers, some of it simply is. We look into that great hollow and see not emptiness, but reflection, the vastness within, mirrored by the vastness without. It is the same calm that lives inside us when we are quiet, the same endless breath that carries every star. Perhaps the greatest truth the Booty's void offers is this: that the universe does not fear silence because silence is its foundation. That it does not avoid emptiness because emptiness is the canvas of its becoming. That what seems like nothing is in fact the infinite capacity to hold everything. So rest now in that understanding. Let the mind drift like light across the void. Let the silence deepen soft and endless, because even here, where the stars are few, the universe continues calmly, gracefully, eternally, woven from light, darkness, and the infinite meaning of nothingness.